where not just women are in danger, but all marginalized people, where being uniquely different right now might truly be considered a crime. It seems as though we had all slipped into a false sense of comfort, that justice would prevail and that good would win in the end. Well, good did not win this election, but good will win in the end. So what today means is that we are far from the end. Today marks the beginning of our story. The revolution starts here. The fight for the right to be free, to be who we are, to be equal. Let's march together through this darkness, and with each step, know that we are not afraid. That we are not alone. That we will not back down. That there is power in our unity, and that no opposing force stands a chance in the face of true solidarity. And to our detractors that insist that this march will never add up to anything,
Boston Red here with Friday Java, a weekly magazine of political theory, polling, and commentary. It is part of the history called people that make up this fascinating journey. We are part of the Obama network. For that, we make no apologies. What we pledge to do is give you the facts on a bridge to history. What body politics is, the most up-to-date theories of political science and psephology. Stay tuned for this incredible ride. Boston Red, peace out.
Friday Java. On the 18th of October 2019, beaming from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network. Also, you can find us on the iHeart app. I noticed listening to the Yankees-Houston game tonight that now ESPN Radio has ESPN Radio. You can reach them, obviously, the old-fashioned way on the dial or via their apps. So we're via apps. Stitcher has an app. You can find that on your phone. Virtually everyone has an app. Twitter has an app. You can find them. YouTube obviously has an app. You can find us there or at the YouTube site. Same with Facebook. You can find us obviously on Facebook. We appear there. We appear on Twitter. We appear in many, many different corners. The Google podcast, we are there. You can find us there, and the RSS feed you can also find us in. Hopefully we've got that problem solved. I need to take a look at it. Nonetheless, Boston Red in the Jerry Pippin broadcast booth here. There's a teacher strike in the city of Chicago. The schools there are closed. The demands are for more school nurses, a nurse in each school, and a social worker and various other things that are essential for the development of young people. That is one of our big stories. Also in Catalonia, there is a strike in Catalonia. There are demonstrations in Lebanon over, of all things, a 20-cent a day tax on messaging systems and phone systems, WhatsApp, etc., there to get that repealed. We've had actions all over the place, basically speaking there. Brexit, there is some type of agreement. Will that agreement pass? Well, from the BBC, it's too close to call at this point in time. The Northern Ireland Party, that is part of the Conservative Coalition, they oppose it. It's a so-called Irish backstop, but it's really not a backstop. It's a C plan. It's a little bit different from what Theresa May proposed, but basically it's the same thing. They've changed a few things around in that customs will still be collected and returned for the EU. We'll have more on that tomorrow. They will vote on that, and hopefully we'll get a special program. We're working on a special program on Boris Johnson. We'll integrate those together. One thing we discovered this year, because of all the political activity this year and coming all at one time, we still have the debate the other night. We'll look at it and the influence of the media had on that debate. We'll get something going on it. And we have Numbers Man this weekend. That's our macroeconomics program. There's some new numbers out. The China figures out at 6%, which 6% is good for China, but it's at lowest in about 3 decades or 30 years. But there are a number of machinations involved in, not only tariffs, and we'll look beyond that, and also at the same time, new tariffs on, of all things, Scotch whiskey. We'll know about that one. And that the U.S. is putting on Scotch whiskey and some other things from Scotland. So we have these punitive tariffs all over the place. And, of course, the impeachment inquiry there, and we'll get into what the Mulvaney said. He is the acting chief of staff about some of the strange things going on. DJ Trump even intervened, and now he's having the Group of 7 meeting at his resort in Florida, which has been losing money. That'll be from the Washington Post. We'll look into that. And on a very sad note, one of the leaders of the House, the chair of the House Oversight Committee, is dead, Elijah Cummings. And I'm looking here at the Baltimore Sun article here, and we'll briefly go over it. We'll hit the high points, and then there's the African American Day in Baltimore. They'll have a special, and we'll have something special on Representative Elijah Cummings. He was the son of sharecroppers who rose to become a House Committee Chair and Baltimore icon. Often spoke of the need to leave a legacy for generations unborn, but he said he was unsure how his own contribution might be remembered. I'm here for a season and a reason, the veteran lawmaker said. This summer in a Capitol Hill office setting below a framed photographs of civil rights leaders Nelson Mandela, Coretta Scott King. I don't know why I'm here, but I don't know how long I'll be here, but I'm here and I'm going to make the best of it. Colleagues have defined Cummings' legacy as his devotion to Baltimore, civil rights, his adherence to civility. We don't have very much of that anymore in a fractured political climate, even as he pursued an impeachment requirement against DJ Trump from his role as chair of the House Oversight Committee. He was 68 years old, and he died from complications of long-standing health problems. He was a patient at some hospice, evidently Gilchrist Hospice Care. He used to always say, our children are our living messages to the future. We will never see. House Speaker Pelosi said he wanted to be sure that the future was going to be better for them than that they would bring with them our values. Members of the House said Cummings would be remembered for preaching calm and his frequent exaltations of we are better than this. He brought peace where there was no peace. That is from Steny Hoyer. He is the majority leader and a Southern Maryland Democrat in Maryland. He recalled Cummings walking the streets of Baltimore, counseling against violence during the unrest that was following the death of Freddie Gray from injuries suffered in police custody. Cummings was among the speakers at Mr. Gray's funeral, asking people if they truly saw Gray before he died. His constituents framed his legacy as that as a father figure and a civil rights icon, ranking him with the late Dr. King and Jesse Jackson. Those are some shoes to fill, there's no doubt about that. As a part of his own thinking about his legacy, Cummings said that he tried to set an example for young members of the committee, such as outspoken progressive Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ayanna Pressley of the Commonwealth of Boston, and Raisha Tlaibbi of Michigan. One day they will be sitting in Pelosi's shoes. Cummings said, and Nelson Mandela said, the greatest person and the strongest person are ones who are able to hold their own emotions in when they feel they should strike out. And I believe in that. If you hear me raise my voice, it's because I believe that somebody is trying to get something over on me. He had been, of course, absent from Capitol Hill in recent weeks while he was sick. Before his death came as a surprise, but his death came as a surprise. It was not known that he had gotten into hospice care. They had announced that he died at the Johns Hopkins Hospital there in Baltimore. His wife said that he worked until his last breath, no doubt about that. He had not participated in a House roll call vote since September 11th. He missed a key committee hearing in mid-September, and his office said that he'd undergone a medical procedure. So he had been getting around in a scooter, and somebody said he had oxygen also. So that was it. So he had health issues in recent years. In 1975, he underwent a procedure to correct a narrowing of his aortic valve in his heart, and he had an infection from it. He was left hospitalized for a knee infection, but he said this summer his health was fine. In recent years, Cummings used a wheelchair to get around and braced himself with a walker when he stood. Anyway, we didn't know about that. A special election, of course, will fill his particular situation. On the House rules, Carol Maloney of New York will become the acting chair because she's the second ranking in seniority on the committee, and then they will elect a permanent chair eventually there in the House. From the African American in Baltimore, basically about the same. They were talking about a special edition, and when we do our special here on it, this is by Michael Green, the Afro Washington D.C. editor, for our beloved Baltimorean and Maryland's 7th Congressional District Democratic Representative. Cummings died early in the morning of the 17th due to complication of long-standing health challenges, according to his office, which he was 68 years old. From sharecropper's son to chair of the House committee that investigated D.J. Trump, and still will be investigating old D.J. Trump there. He spearheaded the 2019 investigation of the president, including Michael Cohen, who is now in jail there. So, one of those situations that occur. Let me tell you the picture that really, really pains me. You were leaving the prison, and you were leaving the courthouse, and I guess it's your daughter. You had braces or something on. Man, that's a thing, man. That hurts me. As a father of 2 daughters, it hurts me. I can imagine how he feels for you, Cummings said, before offering a light in the darkness of his plight. But I am saying to you, I want to first of all thank you, and I know that it has been hard for you, and I know that you're worried about your family. He's talking to Michael Cohen here. This is part of your destiny, and hopefully this portion of your destiny will lead to a better Michael Cohen, a better Donald Trump, a better America, United States of America, a better world. And I mean that from the depth of my heart. Representative Cummings wrapped up his remarks with the words that rang as poetic in light of his passing. When we are dancing with the angels, the question will be asked in 2019, what did we do to make sure that we kept our democracy intact? Did we stand on the sideline and say nothing? So this will just leave you with those words. We'll go now to the people at the University of Virginia. Larry Sabato's shop came out a few days ago. This is the crystal ball. Of course, we always pay homage to Heather Heyer, who was killed by white supremacists in Charlottesville, Virginia. And this is by Kyle Klondike. He's the managing editor there. As the Democrats debate in Ohio, questions loom about how important the state will be in next year's primary election. Two key demographics explain why the states swings towards Republicans in 16, and it's likely to do it again. Likely to again vote to the right of the nation in 2020. The state remains competitive, but is far more important to the Republic. Always has been. A Republican has never won the presidency without Ohio. Democrats' decision to hold a debate in Ohio, that was Westville, outside of Columbus, to reignite a smoldering political discussion about Ohio. Can Democrats win it again? Well, a lot of that will depend on the candidate that they have running. Or should they just abandon the state in favor of other opportunities? We never used to talk about that. Anyway, I wrote a book called The Bellwether, which recounts Ohio's long-standing history at the center of American presidential voting. For more than a century, no state voted more often with the winning candidate, or voted more consistently close to the national popular vote. Again, Ohio voted for winners in 2016, but that was a foregone conclusion, marking the 29th time in 31 elections it has done so. However, it backed DJ Trump by 8 points, while Trump lost the national popular vote by 2, meaning that it was 10 points more Republican in terms of margin than the nation. Ohio's presidential margin has not divulged so far from the national popular vote since 1932. That was a Taft operation was around there. Shifts in Ohio is best explained by two demographic realities that are driving voting patterns all over the nation. Ohio is significantly more European than the nation as a whole. Its population has below levels of 4-year college attainment. That means Ohio has a relatively high share of European voters without college degrees, a group that now forms the bedrock of the Republican coalition. This was true before Trump, but it's now more pronounced with Trump. Non-European voters, meanwhile, vote overwhelmingly Democrat, and European voters with 4-year degrees represent a swing demographic that's trending Democratic, but there are some holes in that. Nonetheless, according to analysis by Rob Griffith and various others, John Halpin, from a Liberal Center American Progress, I wouldn't use their stuff, but anyway, was the national electorate was 45% a non-college European, 29% European with college degrees. Seems rather high to me, but 26% non-European. Meanwhile, the Ohio electorate, based on the same report, which we respect, was 57% European without college degrees, very high, and 28% European with a college degree, and 16% non-white. Of course, when we think about that, we think about Cleveland, in Huff, where I used to live, and we think about Columbus now is trending in that direction. Period. It is a case, and some of this also can be attributed to places like Youngstown, that lost their manufacturing hub, and many people of color simply just moved away. In 2012, Romney beat Barack Obama by a little more than 8 points. 4 years later, let's see me get this right here, is the case that the same places in Ohio are getting more Democratic. Westville, where the debate is being held tonight, is a good example. Now, this is where old Will Romney beat Barack Obama by a little more than 8 points. 4 years later, Hillary Clinton beat Trump there by 4.5 points there. and Westville's a very high level of 4-year attainment there. But that tells you a little bit about Hillary the Monster's vote. All we have to do is look to California and more European sectors of California. She did much better than Barack Obama. Communities like Westville are still situated in both Columbus, Franklin County, as well as its suburbs, extraburb neighborhoods. Delaware County pushed Clinton's 2016 above Barack Obama. Barack Obama did carry Ohio. The problem with Democrats in Ohio, there isn't enough places in the state that look like Westville. Well, there's no doubt about that. But that does not mean a president cannot carry Ohio. President Obama, of course, being being an African American, but not only that, from his mother, a working class background, and he could relate to working class people in Ohio. That is very simple. Ohio voting is led, though not dominated, by 3 urban counties. They call them the Big C's. That is in Cleveland, that's Cuyahoga County. Columbus is Franklin County, and Cincinnati is Harrison County. Together, they 30% of the state vote. Collectively, Hillary Clinton did well enough in these counties to win. She fell off from Obama in Cuyahoga County, but ran ahead in Franklin and Hamilton. That's to be expected. There are more followers of O.J. Simpson in Cuyahoga County, Cleveland. Her margin in the 3 counties were about 5,600 votes worse than President Obama's. In that case, a little more than in a state with 5.5 million votes for President Clinton's margin. The rest of the state was about now this is where it really over 5,608,000 votes less than President Obama. One way to explain Ohio's shift is to analyze its 16 congressional districts, although 2 electoral salient demographic features shows the districts of the state of Ohio as well as the nation there. And Ohio's congressional districts became more Republican from 2012 to 2016. That's to be expected. The ones that were more European have smaller percentage of 4-year college attainment there. Old baldhead old Boehner was out of one of those districts, I think around Dayton, Ohio. Furthermore, only 2 of the 16 congressional districts have a higher concentration of 4-year college and non-European index in the nation as a whole. And this shows the demographics of those we look at here. Ohio 6, 4.6 non-European. Ohio 7, 6.8. Ohio 8, 10. So it kind of gives you an example. And we look at the nation as a whole, non-Europeans, the percentage of the nation is 30.8. 4-year attainment there is 30.9. This is the nation as a whole. And total percentage of college and non-European type 61.7 anyway. Let me move along here. The 2004 presidential election from reddish to bluish. Well, we can look at some of these states here. Looking back, this is the last time Ohio was decisive state in the Electoral College. Now, what does decisive mean? You look at the tables there anyway. Remember Brother John Kerry. John Kerry was robbed in Ohio. A little different there. That was when Blackledge was the Secretary of State in Ohio. We could never prove it, however. The bottom table shows the places John Kerry won, shaded in blue, and his best margins came in D.C. Well, no doubt about that. This is Brother John Kerry here. And in 2004, I remember that. And the blue states, of course, cover Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, New York, Maryland, Connecticut, Illinois, California, Maine, Hawaii, Delaware, Washington, Jersey, Oregon, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and Wisconsin. Now, Iowa, Ohio, New Mexico, and this won't happen again. And Nevada, Colorado, Florida, Missouri, Virginia, Arkansas, Arizona, North Carolina, West Virginia, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, Mississippi, Kentucky, Montana, Indiana, Texas, South Dakota, North Dakota, Kansas, Alaska, Idaho, Utah. These are states that John Kerry lost and G.W. Bush picked up. While Bush also won Iowa and New Mexico that year, they were closer than Ohio. Ultimately, superficious to the outcome. Had Kerry won Ohio, he won the election. Now this is there, losing it by just 2.1 points, while losing nationally by 2.5. So a Democrat can perform in Ohio, and Barack Obama did. But notice too that the ordering of the states was different back then. Most notably, Colorado and Virginia were clearly right of center back then. They have changed, and New Mexico was a swing state. Now it has jumped a dozen years at 216. The table is organized in the same way with most Republican states, starting at the top and the most Democratic ones at the bottom. And basically some of the same people were there. And then if we look at it, we get New Hampshire, Minnesota, Nevada now, Maine and Colorado, Virginia, Delaware, Connecticut, Jersey, Rhode Island, Washington, Illinois, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Commonwealth, Massachusetts, and California, Hawaii, and D.C. So it's a different ball game now. Ohio's still there. But now here's the switches. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, these are all states that Barack Obama carried in 2012. So those are three states there that were different. And I think if we look at Brother Kerry, did he carry those states? Yeah, he carried Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin and Michigan. So it was a different situation there. Was it an outliner? Yes, in the case that there's a lot of things happening, we don't hear that word being used, period. Ohio was relatively far from casting the decisive 270 electoral votes, while Colorado, New Mexico, and Virginia had certainly flipped to the blue side. Some of the key states in 16 were getting outside attention in 2020. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, they're in the middle of the table. Some Democratic targets, such as Arizona, Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina, closer to the middle now than they were back in 2004. There's no doubt about that. If they could solve a voter suppression in North Carolina, the Democrats would win in North Carolina. Georgia is changing there, and Arizona, a very good chance they could win that one. Florida, well, we'll see. The Democrats are willing to make inroads amongst European and non-college educated types. Would be a boost in the Midwest. That is what the little fellow from where is he from? South Bend. Buttigieg goes around telling the people. But the unfortunate problem is Buttigieg's program. He's talking about his naval reserve duty. He was in the Naval Reserve, and of course he was in Afghanistan as an intelligence officer. That's one of those programs that you get in, you accelerate immediately to being a second lieutenant, I believe it is, perhaps a first lieutenant nowadays. But that is all show business. If you look at his positions, they're all to the right of most of the candidates there, except probably Tom, what's his name, Steyer, or whatever his name is there. He would be the one probably more to the right that's still left around, middle of the roadie, whatever you want to call him. And in the debate the other night, Liz Warren from the Commonwealth was attacked there by some of the so-called middle of the roadies. Now, that was Buttigieg. He's talking about Medicare for all. And she does need to formulate her program, and as some people would say. Tighten it up a bit there. And Bernie Sanders has it tight. He's straight up there. Now, Bernie, we'll look at some of the polls here. Bernie has fallen some, but there are some other very interesting situations here that when we look at them, we'll see that. Incidentally, there was this whole thing on a two-person race. That's between Liz Warren and Biden, where that is going. There was a lot of talk about a two-person race coming in there. And that is our program when we talk more about where the media is. We'll be able to talk about that. We have the Emerson poll here. We have several polls we'll be looking at here. And let's just preview those polls. And we have one from, well, let's just get to it and we'll get it. But Emerson, they, of course, across the street from the Commonwealth. All right, this is the Emerson poll here. Then we'll go to it in Professor Kimball. But nonetheless, the Emerson poll has a tied up. This is the Iowa contest between Liz Warren and Joe Lunchbox Biden. They have Bernie at 13 in, what would it be, 4th place. Old Buttigieg at 16, Harris at 2, Senator Booker at 3, Yang at 5, Steyer at 2, Amy Klobuchar at 1. Now, when we look at the matchups here, let me get this right. DJ Trump and Joe Lunchbox Biden. DJ is at 51, Biden at 49. DJ up by 2, and we go Liz Warren, the same as up by 2. DJ Trump, that is. Now, we look at Bernie Sanders. He is actually up by 2. Now, we have another poll here. This is MRG. We'll look at it. Peters and this African-American named James. It's still a close race in the margin error. Peters is up by, and this is Michigan, up by 3. Michigan Senate race. And then with approval rating from Reuters, DJ Trump's at 43. And right direction, wrong direction here. This is out on Thursday. This is the latest thing we have here. I guess we'll look at some of these YouGov. This is a Democratic nominee nomination here. YouGov economists. They have Biden at 25, Liz Warren at 24. She's ahead by 4. This is nationwide. Bernie at 13. Buttigieg is at 7. Harris at 5. O'Rourke at 2. Yang and Senator Klobuchar at 2, Booker at 1, so forth and so on. Mason-Dixon. Now, this is a Kentucky poll. Very interesting here. This is Blevin and Beshear. Beshear being the son of the former governor, Beshear. They're tied at 46-46. We're going to be watching that race very, very closely. And we also have approval of the YouGov poll at 42 for old DJ Trump and at 40 for Political Morning Consult. The generic ballot with YouGov is Democrats ahead by 10. And let me see where we are here. Oh, this is a Republican presidential nomination. There's virtually nobody there. Mr. Ware has 3, Walsh has 2, and Terry Stafford has 2%. Nobody there at all. There's some interesting stuff out of Maine here. I guess that came out on Tuesday. Ordinarily we'd do this on the week with Waza. We'll do it now. Maine, this is PPP out of North Carolina, has Liz Warren up by 12. 31-19 there for Biden, and Bernie at 12. Buttigieg at 9. Harris at 4. And the rest of the pack. Gravis, that is in South Carolina. Biden still has 34. Warren has 9, Bernie Sanders at 10, Harris at 4, Buttigieg doesn't have nothing. And then we have in New York, boy, this is interesting, tied up in New York, 21-21. Senior poll, I guess that's how you pronounce their name, 21-21. Bernie Sanders 16, Buttigieg nothing. Well, he has 4. Harris at 4, Klobuchar at 4. And this is Maine. Well, Maine, Joe Lunchbox Biden is ahead by 12 over DJ Trump. Warren is ahead by 10. Bernie's ahead by 10. Buttigieg by 9. They're all having a good time. This is the PPP poll. And we have GU politics background, has old DJ Trump at 43. The Gallup, the Cadillac of polls. We'll go into that poll, and this is GU. We'll do that tomorrow night. The Democrats up by 6, but Gallup has, and they do it once a week. They have DJ Trump at 39. We'll go into that next time around here. So let's fly along here and see what we get. This is Marketing Research Group. This is in the state of Michigan. Close race between Peters and James. James ran against Debbie Stabenow last time, but he did run a surprising race to be, I think, first time around. John James. Statewide, this is of 600 likely voters, showed that Senator Peters with 43% of James with and 17 undecided. A lot of undecideds, but again, when it's a year out, a long time there to get that going there. 75% of voters were aware of Peters, with 20% having a favorable of him and 15% having a negative. 64% of John James, with 22% having a favorable and 10% a negative. John James' campaign against Stabenow in 2018 appeared to have propelled him into a virtual tie with Peters in 2020. That's from Tom Shields. He is a senior analyst at this MRG. This is certainly shaping up to be one of the closest watched Senate races in the nation. Peters' strong support comes from Democrats, union households, those living in Wayne County, that's Detroit, Oakland County, and the tri-state area of the state. James Strong is from Republican area, voters over 65, and voters living in McCobb County, mid-Michigan, and northern Michigan. You'd expect that to happen there. And these are some of those. We'll get some more of this tomorrow night, I suppose. Let's get to the Emerson poll and see what Professor Kimball has to say. Iowa dead heat with Biden, and that mayor continues to build. Sanders slides. That's the comment here. The caucus 2020. Democratic primary has shifted since the last Emerson poll. Former VP Biden is tied with, followed by Buttigieg, and Bernie Sanders dropped to fourth at 13%. According to Professor Kimball, the director of the polling, the good news for Biden is that he did not lose much ground since March poll. They had him at 25%. It appears that Warren has been a beneficiary of Bernie's drop from 24 to 13. The little mayor there appears to have solidified his base in Iowa, going from 0 in February to 11 in March, and now he has 16 in Hawkeye State. Warren has overtaken Sanders among voters under the age of 50 at 21%. Those under the age of 50, 21% of those under 50 support Warren, while Sanders at 18. Biden continues to lead with the over 50 crowd, receiving 33% of that. Warren now leads Sanders amongst those who supported the Vermont senator in the caucuses. She's at 26% amongst that group, followed by Sanders at 19%, and Buttigieg is getting 16% among those who supported. And now this is an interesting point here. To support Hillary Monster Clinton, Biden kept at 42%, followed by Warren at 22%, and Buttigieg at 13%. Income levels is a deciding factor. Amongst those making less than $50,000 a year, Biden, Sanders, and Warren are all at 20%. Amongst those making more than $50,000 a year, Sanders is at 8%, Warren's at 24%, Biden's at 25%. Trump holds a 47% disapproval and 44% approval rating in Iowa, while Republican governor there, Kim Reynolds, is at 39%. And 35 is not in very good shape there. GOP primary leads the field, and full candidates at 93%. Well, And Trump has a slight advantage over Warren and Biden at 51, and while Sanders carries a 2-point advantage over Trump. Let me just make sure. Oh, a matchup there has a slight advantage here, yeah, in this poll. That's kind of interesting there. Now the issues, the economy, 33%, followed by healthcare at 19%, social issues at 10%, impeachment ranks 7 out of 9 at 6%. Impeachment's not very high. We've been looking at a number of polls, and impeachment does not break the ice. Let's see. Followed by the economy, 17%, environment at 14%, majority Republican, 55%, identify the economy as the most important issue. Immigration at 14%, independence is split between the economy at 27%, and healthcare, very important situation there. 1 in 4 voters, 25%, said they haven't seen a presidential candidate in person as expected. Democrats said likely to have seen one, 34% there. Democratic primary for the Senate that's in Iowa is wide open. 74% of Democratic primary voters still undecided. Teresa Greenfield at 11, Michael Franken and Eddie Murrow were both tied at 6, while Kimberly Graham at 4. Potential head-up matches at Joni Ernest. She's Greenfield trails 47-40 with 14% undecided. Call ID was in the fix here, and N equals 888. Let's see. That's how the poll was conducted, and okay, 888. All right, that is Emerson, and at Kentucky we won't find a lot here, but yeah, a little bit. This is in polling in Kentucky since 1987. Mason-Dixon, they've been around there. They are out of Jacksonville, Florida, and Washington, D.C. Anyway, this is their October poll. The race there, Matt Blevin has pulled into a tie with the Democrat Chancellor Andy Beshear. Statewide, 46% of likely voters now support Blevin, and 46% vote Beshear. It's not as good for Beshear because Blevin was underwater when we covered Fancy Farm. Anyway, this is kind of looks here in December of 2018. Beshear had 48%, Blevin only 40%, and somebody named Hicks. Now in October, they're 46 and 46, and Hicks, I'm not sure who Hicks. Blevin is bringing Republican voters back into the fold. His Republican voters increased from 67% to 77% at present. He's receiving a strong crossover vote, drawing, and this is where the problems arise. 22% of the Democrats compared to Beshear's 15% from Republicans. Blevin leads amongst men, older voters, and those in rural areas. Beshear is strong in women, young voters, and those in, no doubt, Louisville and other areas. While still more negative than positive, Beshear's ratings have improved. In the past, in other words, he statewide, 45% now approve his performance. That's up from 38%, while 48% disapprove. He was at 53. This is some of his levels. Beshear was at 45 in 17, at 38 in 2018. Blevin, excuse me, and he's now at 45 and 48 disapprove, not sure of him. Beshear's Blevin's resurgence can be attributed to DJ Trump's popularity in Kentucky, strong resistance to his impeachment. Now this is where impeachment once again is playing into this record. 65%. Now this is a big problem here. 65% oppose efforts to impeach and remove from office, and 57% approve of his performance. Now how this will work out next year, a little bit hard to say. Do you recognize the name? Do you have a favorable opinion of DJ Trump? 55% have a favorable opinion, 33% unfavorable, and 12% are neutral. Andy Beshear only 37% and 35% unfavorable. Matt Blevin 36% and 42% unfavorable. I'm not sure who John Hicks even is. Now, this is the areas where they are statewide. We already gave that. In Louisville, the hometown of the late Muhammad Ali, 56% for Bashir, 33% for Blevin, 2% for Hicks. Lexington, Bluegrass Country, 53% for Bashir and 39% for Blevin. And Northern Kentucky, 45% for Bashir, 2 points more for Blevin at 47%. Eastern Kentucky, 38% for Bashir, and this is where Blevin is 56% there. And in Western Kentucky, 39% for Bashir, 54%. You can see where that is going for Blevin. Men, Bashir has 43%, Blevin has 51%. Almost a 20-point advantage there. And women, 49% for Bashir, 41% for Blevin. And the age groups less than 50, 50% for Bashir and 51% for Blevin. So people are trending plus 50, 43% for Bashir and 50% there. Party registration. Bashir is getting 72% of Democratic vote. He needs to get more than that. And Blevin is getting 22%, and Bashir is getting 15% of Republican vote, and Blevin is 77%. Now, the independent vote, Bashir so far is at 46 to 38. That is a bright spot for Mr. Bashir. Do you approve or disapprove of Matt Blevin's job performance? I thought we gave that before. In Louisville, 32% approve, 62% disapprove. Lexington, 40% approve, 53% disapprove. Northern, 49% approve, 44% disapprove. Eastern Kentucky, 53% approve of Blevin and 40% disapprove. And Western Kentucky, you can see where he's doing better in the west and in the east, and somewhat better in the north. And again, we get into men at 49% approve, 44% disapprove. Women, 42% approve and 51% disapprove. The ages there. So this is Democrats, 70% disapprove, 23% approve. This is Blevin. And Republicans, 72% approve, 22% not. Independents, 42 and 48% there. Do you approve or disapprove of DJ Trump? 44% of the people who live in Louisville approve of him, 53% in Lexington. Interesting there. 59% in Northern Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky 67, and 63 in Western Kentucky. So really in Louisville is the only place that they disapprove, 52%, 44% there. And there was some not sure. And although DJ Trump, 60% of men approve him, 55% of women, not good. And 42% of women disapprove and 35% of men. In the age group less than 50, 51% approve. Ouch. And 44% disapprove and 52% plus 50 approve. The various people there, 34% of the Democrats approve DJ Trump, 86% of Republicans, and 48% of the independents disapprove of that. Democrats, 63%, 10% of the Republicans, and 44% of the independents. And the impeachment question, out. Statewide, 29% support it, 65% oppose it. And in Louisville, 41% support it. Lexington, 36%. Northern Kentucky, 27%, 19 and 22. And the opposition is 50% in Louisville, 56% in Lexington, 68%. And then we get to 78 in Eastern and 73 there. And with men and women, men that support only 26% and 31% of women, 67 and 64 oppose it. The age groups less than 50, 32% support it, 60% oppose it, and 8% undecided, and plus 50, almost 70% oppose it. Party registrations with Democrats, and this is where Democrats are strange here. 49% support it, 46% opposed to it, 5% undecided, 4% of Republicans, and 89 oppose it. and the independents, and most of them opposed at 58% there. And this is Mason-Dixon of Jacksonville, Florida. This was taken October the 10th through 13th. A total of 625 registered voters were interviewed statewide by phone, indicating they were likely to vote in 2019 statewide general election. This is, okay, so, all right. So this is statewide. It's a plus of 4% error rating there. So we've got it all here. And I suppose this will do it for us. I believe we got everything in here. And check my cheat sheet here. Nonetheless, Mulvaney, we forgot about him. He is the acting chief of staff there. He said DJ Trump that it was engaged in a quid pro quo on the Ukraine. So more evidence there. We didn't spend much time here on it. There's no reason to spend a lot of time on it, period. We'll have a special program to cover the debate, at least where the media is trying to move the debate to right of center. We'll talk about that. This will do it for us. Boston Red and Jerry Pippin broadcast booth on the 18th of October 2019. Good day. Oh, and have a good weekend. Don't want to forget that.